So a brand new 15GB update will drop for Steam really soon, and we already have the patch notes with some big fixes for pretty much all of the weapons in the game. The focus strike on Lance is getting a fix, double input problem with Hunting Horn is getting a fix, also Hammer is getting a fix in there too. Plus, we have all of the new stuff coming out with title update number 1. So without further ado, let's jump right in it with, of course, patch version 1.10 that you can go ahead and see over here. We do have all the details on the major new additions. So new monsters can now be hunted after meeting certain in-game conditions. Also, Mizutsune has been added. Reaching high rank 21 is what we need to unlock the extra mission that can be started by speaking to Kanya in the Scarlet Forest base camp. Complete the mission to unlock Mizutsune. Then there's also Tempered Mizutsune that has been added and will appear when you are Hunter rank 41 plus after completing the Mizutsune extra mission first. So that mission will unlock both the base variant and the Tempered as well. Then of course we have Zoshia added as a high rank monster. We need to have Hunter rank 50 to unlock a story mission that unlocks Zoshia. New story, extra and side missions have been added, so it's not just Zoshia but actually way more content it seems. New weapons, armor and skills have been added, most likely pertaining to the monsters we just mentioned. The upgrade limit has been increased for armor of rarity 5 and above, which is actually really interesting. It means we can now make more use of the armor spheres, and if you're already capped out, you can probably just increase that defense even more. There's also talks about the Grand Hub as we know about it. It can be unlocked by completing a tutorial mission that appears at Hunter rank 16. We already know we have to talk to the big NPC guy in Suja Peaks of Accord. They've also added the following features, finally detailed what we get in the Grand Hub. So barrel bowling, the Diva, arena quest counter, the canteen, and arm wrestling barrel. So it really seems that they featured everything in the trailer. Expedition record board has been added to the Grand Hub along with rankings for the time attack quests. And by the way, they've also issued a warning about cheating. If you get caught in a group that cheats, you're going to have that run invalidated, and if you get caught cheating yourself, you may get restrictions in terms of the content and the rewards that you get access to via these quests. So be careful about that and keep an eye out for it. On the subject of challenge quests and free challenge quests, they have been added, but they will be made available at a later date. I think that the first one will actually start today or tomorrow once 12 AM is here, depending on your region, by the way. For me, it starts in a few hours. New status ailments have been added, which is really interesting. It doesn't detail too much on that, but at least one of them will be the Bubble Blight from Mizutsune. However, Zoshia was also data mined with some extra status ailments a while ago that were not present in the current game. So who knows, maybe the high rank version also gets some new ailments over there as well, not just the Fire and the Thunder Blight. New voice lines for Alma. An arena log page has been added to the hunter profiles. A change appearance menu in the camp menu has now an option to change Alma's outfit, as you already know. New pop-up camp gear options have been added for more customization. New limited bounty categories have also been added, which is interesting. It seems that now we have like 6 bounties instead of the typical only 5, plus 1 or 2 more from the arenas and the challenges. New voice lines, pose sets, and gestures for the characters. Preparations have been made for Festival of Accord, which is planned from April 23rd up until May 6th. This is the first spring update that they talked about before, and the following features will be temporarily modified during the Festival of Accord. So this includes the Handler's outfit, Sacred decoration, the Diva song list, the Grand Hub decorations, and the Canteen's menu. They mentioned that every festival will change these with the thematic new, of course, changes that are getting added. But let's jump straight to the weapon changes. Of course, you can find them in the player general category, and we're gonna check all of them in just a little bit, but specifically starting with the weapon. For the lens, made it easier to land thrust attack finishers after a focus strike in which the first hit causes a large knockback. So now you're going to have an easier time with the focus strike on the lens if you had trouble with that. Hammer also fixed an issue where focus strike could not be used quickly after coming to a stop after moving during a charge. That is actually really interesting. No buffs for it just yet, by the way. That's going to be at the end of May. Light Bowgun also gets something. They fixed an issue that caused Wyvern Blast to react to Palico attack, which is really interesting. I didn't even know that was actually possible. Also, the Palico, they fixed an issue that prevented stun and exhaust values from increasing when a Palico attacks a monster with a blunt weapon. In terms of the Hunting Horn, like I said, they fixed an issue where certain actions that required simultaneous inputs were not behaving correctly. So pretty much this means that the double input problem that the Hunting Horn players had is probably going to get fixed. At least that's what I'm reading from here. For heavy bowgun and light bowgun, range attack capabilities have been adjusted when riding a secret. But in the meantime, we have to talk about the mental changes. You can see here we have both nerfs, including the corrupted mental and also buffs for the others. So effect of the corrupted mental have been adjusted. We're going to check all of those in game, how significant they are going to be. I'm not sure if it's just like damage reduction or will it affect attacks themselves, because some of the weapons, a lot of their attacks actually get like double hits basically from the corrupted mental effect. So we're gonna see that in game. But the Rocksteady mental damage mitigation has been increased. It doesn't say by what amount, so we're gonna check that as well. The Mending mental and evasion mental durations have both been increased. And then we have a bunch of other changes to some of the weapons, including for bow a couple. Dragon piercer damage has been decreased, which is really unfortunate, and bow power volley elemental values have been increased. I guess that everybody was ignoring the power volley and either spamming the dragon piercer, or in the latest versions that we saw of speedrunning, it was basically just spamming circles, so doing the dash dancing combo constantly all the time. I'm not even sure this is going to even affect the speed running in terms of the damage from the bow. It's just that the corrupted mantle will obviously affect those timers. The bow dragon piercer wasn't even used in some of the quickest timers we had in the past few days. So yeah, the dragon piercer damage decreased. Should have probably not been in the update, just my 2 cents. Also, 1000 dragons damage has been increased. This includes when using close range coating and power coating. 1000 dragons is actually a pretty interesting skill that kind of got overlooked just because other sources of damage were way better for the bow and much quicker. You charge this, by the way, with R2, triangle and circle at the same time, but it also has auto tracking if you put down a tracer shot. So technically speaking, it was desirable just because it launches so many arrows in the target. And now that when you use close range coating and power coating, you get that bonus damage as well. That's going to make it more desirable. And there's a final change to the bow. Power shot and power volley are now affected by the skill Charge Master. So if I'm reading right into this, I think that Capcom is trying to maybe change the like super quick instant release of the power shot and power volley, because like Charge Master basically just increases your elemental damage and status build up for charged attacks. So right now, the way you play with the power shot and the power volley is to unleash it as quick as possible. You don't stay there doing any charges for them whatsoever. So I'm not sure if this is going to affect it significantly. I guess we're gonna see the math behind it and whatnot. But yeah, it definitely seems that bow is getting like the most amount of changes in this build. And besides this, they also fixed an issue with opening shot not working with special ammo. So really interesting. This means that, yeah, light bowguns and heavy bowguns and pretty much everything that uses opening shot will get some extra benefits from it. Now, they have some further details on the bases and facilities. So after unlocking the Grand Hub, the squad information counter will now move from the Windward Plains base camp to the Grand Hub, which we know that they talked about before. They fixed an issue where the consecutive uses of the barbecue grill inside a tent could cause game controls to stop functioning. Also, they fixed an issue with the barbecue grill where ingredients would be used but meal effects wouldn't trigger when a meal is cancelled, such as when an environmental link is disbanded. Also improved the response time for controls in all dialogue scenes, such as facility conversations. Also, the rest command now requires 500 guild points. I think this is up from 300. And investigations reward 10% more guild points than before. That is quite a significant change over there, almost twice the amount we used to get, with only a 10% increase in amounts we get from the missions. Also increased the amount of points required for Wyverian melding and melding decorations at the melding pot. I'm pretty sure that this is a direct response to all the folks who still have golden tickets, but man, yeah, new players are probably going to be affected a lot by this. Also increased the amount of melding points obtained from some items and rare decorations when using them as melding materials. Okay, that may make up for that. fixed an issue where meal invitations would sometimes be announced or show up in the environmental overview at times when the invitation could not actually be accepted. Finally, we have a fix for the meal invitations. And finally, the transfer items options have been added to the provision stockpile menu, allowing you to restock items outside of the tent, which is a really nice quality of life change. For the missions, they fixed an issue where some side missions which required specific item turn-ins would not be completed correctly, and they fixed an issue that prevented the completion of side mission conditions during event quests. They've also got some changes for the monsters and endemic life. I don't think they've added the display just yet, so no, it's just a bunch of fixes. There's a fix for some of the monsters stopping to move in certain situations, another one for some of the monster wounds disappearing unintentionally after performing certain actions, which was definitely noticeable in the past couple of weeks. Also fixed an issue where the game might crash after blocking a grievous attack. Another one where the introductory cinematic camera used for newly discovered monsters would trigger on monsters you've already discovered. Another one for the Smoke Shroud Gecko endemic life would not appear in the Windward Plains. They adjusted the behavior of some monster actions. Distance between the monsters and camera has been increased for certain monsters, finally, such as for Gore Magala. So hopefully this is going to make the fight easier, because let's be honest, the biggest problem in that fight is quite literally the camera itself and, well, the narrow corridors, but that's something you can maybe handle a little bit. Fixed an issue where Jindahad would unintentionally disappear from the locale. And we also have to talk about some of the changes coming out to Steam, but there's also a bunch of login bonuses before that. There will now be login bonus days that include a free meal voucher, one out of the different types that the game has, and login bonuses now include at least one barrel bowling voucher every day that you can go ahead and use, obviously, at the minigame in the Grand Hub. Now, for the Steam and for everybody on PC who wants some changes and some, well, performance improvements, I guess, there are some over here. So in the Steam version, improvements were made to VRAM usage, and direct storage versions have been upgraded. Another one really important here is to SOS Flare, an issue that made communication errors more likely to occur when firing an SOS Flare right at the start of a quest. Also, background color has been changed to black for areas outside of the game's rendering range. And they fixed an issue where a squad leader leaving a squad would not correctly transfer leadership right to the sub leader. And everything else is, I believe, in terms of character models and things not displaying properly, so you can pretty much read on them if you want to. And since we talked about SOS flares, another change they've made, well, fix actually, in the quest category is for the issue where the quest would not appear in the SOS flare quest search if the quest host fires the SOS flare but then leaves the quest. And there were many occasions when you would perform these SOS flare searches and get all of these errors over there, so I'm glad that they are at least doing some in regards to that. Also, by the way, the release of the update will be in about 6 hours from this point, or maybe less than 6 hours. It's pretty much 3 a.m. UTC, or essentially 8 p.m. Pacific time, depending which region you are, so you can go ahead and convert these times right here for your current location. And that's pretty much it with the patch notes. We're gonna drop in with more changes as we get in the new patch. In the meantime, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.